I was 29 when I buried my mother. She left the world the way she lived in it, quietly, with grace, and without asking for much. The funeral was small. A handful of neighbors, the pastor, and my younger brother Matthew standing stiff beside me, shoulders tense like he was bracing against an invisible storm. We thought the storm had passed. That burying her was the end of the hardest chapter of our lives. We were wrong. 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang. My uncle Richard stood on the porch with a lawyer at his side. His coat was neatly pressed, his tie expensive, his smile rehearsed. He held a folder thick with papers that smelled of ink and finality. "I'm here about the will," he said. The words hit me like ice water. I didn't even know she had updated it. Inside, we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where my mother used to place bowls of steaming soup, the same table where Matthew and I did homework under her watchful eyes. Now it was covered in papers. Legal papers. According to them, my mother's house, the farmhouse with peeling paint and lilacs growing wild by the windows, was no longer ours. Neither was the land. Neither were her savings. All of it had been left to Richard. I felt my throat close. My mother, she wouldn't do this. She wouldn't sign everything away to a man who barely visited, who never lifted a hand to help us when she worked double shifts at the diner just to keep the lights on. "This is wrong," I said, my voice shaking. "She would never." Richard cut me off with a hand on my shoulder, his smile almost kind. "She trusted me to handle things. You two are young. You'll understand one day." But I understood already. I understood betrayal. That night, Matthew paced the room, fists clenched, eyes wild. "Let's go to his house. Take back the papers. Burn them. He can't do this to us." I shook my head. My grief was sharp, but beneath it was something colder, stronger. "Revenge isn't loud, Matt. It's patient." And I meant it. Part 2. Cracks in the mask. Richard was good at masks. In church, he wept for his beloved sister. In town meetings, he spoke of preserving her legacy. At the bar, he bought drinks, slapped backs, and laughed like a man at peace with the world. But small towns remember. And soon whispers found me. My great-aunt who had once lost her farm after Richard offered to help with debts. A cousin's inheritance that disappeared under his watch. An old neighbor who swore Richard promised him something that never came. Was a pattern. Not a single betrayal, but a lifetime of them. No one spoke up because Richard knew how to make people feel small under his shadow. But I wasn't afraid of shadows. So I began to dig. At night, after work, I sat at my desk with coffee gone cold, the blue light of my laptop casting shadows across my face. Property deeds. Bank transfers. Old wills. New wills. The deeper I looked, the darker it got. Richard had forged my mother's will. Her signature was real, stolen from old checks, but the date, the notary stamp, the witnesses, they were lies. Bold, ugly lies dressed in neat legal fonts. And just like that, grief turned into fire. He hadn't only stolen from us. He had silenced her voice. He had rewritten her last words. Part 3. Playing his game. If I went to court then, Richard would win. He had money, influence, friends, and places where my mother's name carried no weight. So I didn't go to court. I went to him. "Uncle," I said one evening, standing on his porch with a bottle of bourbon, "I don't want to fight anymore. Let's make peace." Suspicion flickered in his eyes, but greed is a blinding thing. He let me in. We drank. He talked. And I listened. I became a regular at his house. Helped him with errands. Sat across from him as he boasted about deals, about his cleverness. And slowly, piece by piece, he slipped. He told me which lawyer had drawn up the false will. He told me where the original papers were kept. He bragged about accounts full of money that wasn't his. All the while, I nodded, smiled, played the role of the broken nephew. But inside, I was sharpening my knife. The kind of knife made of evidence. Of truth. Of patience. Part 4. The Reckoning. It happened on the day of the summer fair. The air smelled of fried dough and cut grass. Children laughed on the rides. Music floated from the bandstand. And in the middle of it all stood Richard, broad smile, hand on the mayor's shoulder, basking in the glow of a town he thought adored him. But masks crack when the truth comes knocking. That morning I had walked into the courthouse, a thick folder under my arm. Inside was everything. Forged signatures traced against real ones. Bank records showing money funneled into hidden accounts. Witnesses ready to testify how Richard had manipulated them. By noon the sheriff had the warrant. By evening Richard's laughter was cut short as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The crowd parted, stunned into silence as the man they once called generous was led away. And me? I just watched. The house came back. The farm. The savings. Piece by piece, justice returned what he stole. But the real victory wasn't in what we regained. It was in what Richard lost. The mask was gone. The whole town saw him now for what he was. Epilogue, blood runs quiet. People ask me sometimes, did it feel good? Watching him fall? Revenge doesn't bring peace. It doesn't stitch up the nights spent worrying, or the years spent scraping by. It doesn't bring my mother back. But it does something else. It stops the rot from spreading. It ends the cycle. It ensures no one else carries the same wound. Now, when I stand on the porch watching the lilacs sway in the evening light, I still feel grief. It lingers like a shadow, soft but unshakable. But alongside it, I feel something close to peace. Because sometimes family betrays you. Sometimes family saves you. And sometimes family revenge is the only way the truth survives.